Alright, new trailer time. Rick here with an analysis of the Netflix trailer that dropped with more Discovery details. Now, this trailer puts to rest any lingering hope that this is not its own contained universe to all the other series. It seems to be a complete reboot of the lore by the looks of it, and I mean that in more than just the aesthetics. But, fine, take it for what it is. Let's get started. So we get an opening shot of the Shenzhou leaving the planet's surface. This is the first clear shot of the ship we've seen, and I gotta say I really do actually quite like it. The NCC 1227 places the vessel as quite an old ship for only 10 years pre-TOS. The Constitution class vessels were already in service by this time. Now we already know the bridge is on the bottom, which is quite unusual, but I gotta say, I like the deflector dish as well. It almost looks like it's angled up on this. Quite a unique design either way. And as it leaves we see... Did they blast that into the ground? Seems a little space cowboy of them. I'm joking, I think that's just a logo. So we're back to the desert planet from previous trailers. If I had to guess, this is probably from an early scene in the show, there to establish character growth between Burnham and Captain Georgiou. A cool alien thingy, obviously sentient by the fact that it's clothed itself. It's probably their contact or their mission objective on this planet, looking increasingly less like Vulcan. So we'll just call it the desert planet. Then we get a shot of the USS Europa being exploded and some red alert scenes that come up again a bit later. And Burnham jetting off somewhere. If I had to guess, it's to meet a Klingon rendezvous that we saw from the previous trailer. So we cut to a flashback of a Klingon being beaten up, and you hear faint children's laughter, suggesting that this took part in the history of this guy. Takuvma, I think? The Klingon commander? Looks like the series is going to be focusing a lot on the actual character of the Klingons as well, what with their own backstories and so on, which could be cool. And then back to Burnham, looking surprised as she recovers from an impact in what seems to be a cell. I say it's a cell rather than emergency force fields, as we can see the emitters here, suggesting they were already a thing. I mean, it could be a combination of sheer luck of right place, right time and poor ship design to have a single safety zone in the event of a hull breach, but I think the fact she's in a cell is more likely. Just saying. And oh my god, yellow collar! So perhaps the undershirts could be classic Division colours? Yay! I'm just saying, this was one of my earlier theories. It would be so cool and a slight... Anywho, Netflix original series, at least outside of the US. And then a crash or a landing looks very Klingon to me. Maybe even the sarcophagus ship itself. It's a very inhospitable looking environment it's landed on as well. Then presumably inside we see the Klingons mourning the passing of one of their own, an important figure considering the pomp and circumstance around it. They let out their traditional Klingon howl to warn the afterlife that a warrior is on its way. I always like that touch to their culture. They're literally shouting a warning to the heavens that a warrior is on their way to F your shiny up. And a scene change to Burnham talking to Sarek. Seems to be seeking advice. She's saying we've encountered them again, suggesting the Klingons. And then a cut to the Shenzhou facing off against the Klingon sarcophagus ship in the same photogenic area of space we've seen before in previous trailers. So I'm liking the look of the Shenzhou. I'm still not entirely sold on the new Klingon technology design. And Kuvma saying we've been waiting for someone worthy of our attention. Gulp. Incoming ships, all Klingon signatures, and we see a whole bunch of precision warp jumps as a fleet of Klingon ships arrive alongside the sarcophagus ship. The warp effects look the same here as ever, though I do miss the 4-point flash they used to make, but that's really not important, and I think it was probably just a Federation thing anyway. Then the interior of a hydroponics bay, an unexpected one apparently from Sonequa Martin Green's reaction. Right, then we get to see the sarcophagus ship opens fire on the Shenzhou, which really is a tiny ship. The Klingon disruptors here look to be of the greeny hue, sticking to the original colour variations. Then during the explosions, we see Ensign Connor, I believe this is, get knocked down, and I think he even gets spaced. T'Kuvma walking to address his houses. We know his motivation is to unify the disparate houses of Kronos, to end the turmoil that the Empire has been plagued with for decades. If that were to happen, if the Klingons were to unify towards a single goal, then they would most definitely become a galactic threat. Case in point, more shots of the Shenzhou being attacked and returning fire. Also note that the phaser fire is more akin to the Kelvin timeline pulses rather than the constant energy streams from prior shows. But this also does kind of bridge the gap of technology between Enterprise and TOS. Kinda. This crewman gets a face full of explosion and they don't seem to like it very much. I think this is probably all still aboard the Shenzhou. Then there's red alert scenes from earlier with medical crewmen dressed all in white. Alright, yeah, cool, it's been done before. They seem to have like the standard Starfleet epitaphs on the shoulder, the little highlights there, still indicating science with the silver trim. Then we cut to the interior of a shuttle. Emergency life support can be seen written on their seats, but I don't think it's an escape pod, I think it's just there in case of emergency. We also get to see the tactical vests sort of things from the earlier images, and yeah, you know what, they look alright. They sort of resemble Mako uniforms from Enterprise era, again suggesting the further unification of Mako and the Starfleet into the Federation. Which isn't a recent thing, but it's nice to see, I guess, nods to the canon. Then the shuttle jets off through a Federation-style force field. I believe this is probably concluding an away mission that Sonequa Martin Green's character's been in charge of. And back to the desert planet, with what looks like a sandstorm on its way. Before cutting back to the Shenzhou being in combat, with... it looks like the Klingon ships have green deflector shields. It's going to be handy if I'm identifying them in firefights. And what the hell is going on this ship? Well, it looks like either someone's telekinetic, you've found a really weird desk toy, or you're having trouble with your grav plates. But hey, she's wearing yellow again, that's cool. Saru, looking cool. I do like this makeup. I am so glad that they went with practical makeup more than CGI. It's brilliant. And the Shenzhou directly firing on what I think is the sarcophagus ship again. Run, followed by running, and if I had to guess, this seems to take place on the same mission that ended with them piling into the shuttle and departing in a hurry. Burham looks the same in this shot, and it looks like a Federation interior, so perhaps this is the USS Europa from earlier, before it got destroyed or whatever. And then Jason Isaacs, Captain Lorca, discussing something with Burham. We can see her reflection in the yellow top again, just in the window, suggesting she's behind glass. And then a nice outside shot of the Discovery. It looks better, I guess. Although I do like that the warp speed still has the stretch effect followed by the flash. That makes me happy. And when he's talking about a new way to travel, I think perhaps he's talking about philosophy rather than literally a new warp drive or anything like that. So then we get some burning circles with people inside them. I'm not really sure, but the next scene is of Sarek and a young Michael Burnham and some rubble, so perhaps there was an incident at the Vulcan Learning Academy. That's what these little round pods do resemble, and the triangle is a recurring shape in Vulcan designs. So we know Burnham is the first human to attend the academy, and we see Sarek looking genuinely to care for her. So for Sarek to openly display some sort of emotions, there must be quite an investment there. Maybe she saved someone during this disaster. Maybe someone close to Sarek. So, to escape the cell she's in, she's got to risk some EVA time without a suit, and judging by the decompression, the emergency force fields are failing to preserve oxygen, indicating the ship's in a very bad state. This could still be the Shenzhou, in fact I think it is, probably sustained damage during the Klingon attack. And then we get introduced to Harry Mudd, warning them that they're in very imminent danger of death, and the red alert would seem to verify this fact. And then we get a ship colliding with a much larger Klingon vessel. Now it's not the Shenzhou, is it the Europa? We get a reaction shot to Captain Georgiou and the crew watching it, so yep, it's definitely not the Shenzhou. And yes, it's the Europa. Now Lorca seems to agree with the decision that Burnham made, who chose to do the right thing. Whatever it is, it's a decision Burnham herself seems to have issues with. Georgiou and Burnham beaming down to the Klingon ship. I think, judging by the ornate decoration, it's probably the sarcophagus ship. I don't mind the transporter effect, it's pretty much the same, just in gold. Oh shit! And Klingon tackle, off of a ledge. Also, I like the look of the phasers. They've gone with a redesign of the classic look, and that is something that is quite iconic to Star Trek, the sort of backwards facing design of them. Now we see Burnham being carted away to the cell from earlier in the trailer. Quick Klingons? Are those statues or holograms? They're translucent, so I'm guessing holograms. Back to the Shenzhou and sparks are flying. Burnham going through some Jeffries tubes. And then I don't even spines, maybe, on the desert planet. Moving on. And boom! The Europa crashing into the Klingon ship. Lorca, you helped start a war. Don't you want to help me end it? Now she looks concerned, maybe guilty. Is Lorca on the level here? He's definitely trying to either rally her or manipulate. Maybe I'm looking into it too much, but what if he's pro-Federation Klingon war and his ideas of it ending would bring Burnham into conflict with Federation ideals and with him, and I don't know, it'd be interesting drama here. And a desert planet again with pods, eggs. Perhaps it's that earlier species' home, their hive, nest, conglomeration. Epic climbing action in some Jeffries tubes. It's probably during the away team mission, and it does suggest some damage to the ship or whatever it is they're on. Why else would you use Jeffries tubes unless the systems were either obstructed or unresponsive? Lorca testing a force field, Federation of Design in a lab, presumably. Then Sarek mind melding with a young Burnham to save or stabilise after this incident, or even perhaps just to understand her motivations. It explains the level of friendship they seem to share, or at least some way towards it. And escape pods being jettisoned from the Shenzhou, we can see the hatches have popped open. It's a full evacuation, so I wonder if we're going to see the destruction of the ship in like the first few episodes. I don't think so, considering what a big prominent part it's played, and there's not going to be the destruction of 2 Federation vessels in the opening acts, is there? And Burnham's not so graceful EVA retreat from an ornate vessel on top of which she met a single Klingon, as we saw from earlier trailers. And it seems they had a disagreement. Fade in for Star Trek Discovery, and that's it. So, what to make of this? So I'm going to go into some plot theories here, so if you want to avoid any sort of spoilers, thanks for watching, and you should probably check out now, because I'm going to go fairly in depth with this. Alright, still here? Let's carry on. So how's this? Burnham always had trouble studying at the Vulcan Academy, being the only human and the first human to actually study there ever. But her friendship with Sarek truly begins after an incident where the Klingons attack the Vulcan's learning academy, and during the chaos she saves his son, Spock. Thus he's indebted to her and befriends her. There was no retaliation for the attack as the Klingon houses were divided and no clear governmental figure was held responsible. Many years later, the USS Shenzhou is out looking for leads on the missing USS Europa. It searches through this desert planet where it potentially comes across Harry Mudd, who leads them to the location of the Europa. They come across it floating in space, and Captain Georgiou sends across an away team commanded by Burnham to have a look. They found it damaged and adrift on the fringes of Federation space. Things go awry on the away mission as Klingon signatures are detected, and they bail out very quickly, returning to the Shenzhou as Klingons pile in. These guys are unified and they are dangerous. Burnham recommends attacking first, to which Georgiou is very much opposed. After all, it's not the Federation way. she consults Sarek on the matter and eventually agrees to give diplomacy a try. So she dons a spacesuit and jets on over to a mutual meeting point agreed by both sides to attempt her hand at negotiating a truce. This fails completely, however, after she's unable to restrain her emotions and lashes out, ending any chance of a peaceful resolution. Georgiou's none too happy with this and has her confined to the brig for violating orders and jeopardizing everything. She survives the attack in the brig, and the only way the Shenzhou can actually escape is to have the Europa sacrifice itself in a collision to hold back the Klingon capital ships. Sometime prior to this, for some reason, Georgiou and Burnham have beamed over to the sarcophagus ships, perhaps to re-attempt a negotiation or perhaps to engage in a strike mission, not entirely sure there. Either way, the Discovery turns up to rescue survivors from the Shenzhou, whose ultimate fate is kind of ambiguous, and probably will be. But Lorca agrees with Burnham's assumption that negotiations were always futile, and he promotes her to a temporary XO, thus setting up the rest of the series on the Discovery, with Burnham being the XO of the Discovery and the surviving crew members of the Shenzhou creating drama, based around the clash of Federation ideals versus practicality. So there we go, a plot theory with almost no basis, but it might make a good narrative anyway. So what do you guys think? Think I'm close? Think I'm way off the mark? Have you guys got a good idea as to where the plot might go to? What do you think of the trailer? And for that matter, what did I miss? Because trust me, there is bound to be something. This was a long trailer, and a long video to boot. Let's discuss in the comments below, and as always, thanks very much for watching. I'm going to wrap this video up now, as it's turned out way longer than I anticipated. So, until next time, I've been Rick, this has been Certifiably In Game, and thank you for watching. Seriously. Goodbye.